welcome again to Kano Iwanyayi broadcast. I'm sorry, Kano Iwanyayi broadcast. This is your Sangwadzi Kachiza Mapfumo. I'm back again today with one of the most interesting young men I've met the past 2 years, 3 years that I've been doing this. We have Benson Luckmore Pamhi, right? Is that your full name, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay. I always call him Luckmore. So here he is. And Luckmore is today he is our ordinary person who is doing extraordinary work because he is the president of African Youth and Adolescent Network on Population and Development in Zimbabwe. Luckmore, welcome to my program, and feel free. We would like for you to talk to us today about the work that you've been doing the past 6 years, which I personally feel is amazing work in HIV and AIDS.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Good. So, as I said earlier on, Luckmore is now the president of um, African Youth and Adolescent Network in Youth Population Development.
Yes.
Population and development. I'm getting my words all mixed up, but tell us what that is. I know you've been working in HIV for the past 6 years, doing amazing work, particularly with the youth. But now this is a big program now that you're working on. Go ahead and tell us what you are doing as of now, where you've progressed and where you are now.
All right. Thank you very much. So you can actually agree with me that for quite a long, the voices of young people were undermined, especially in the be it the national response or the global response, in particular to HIV. I know we are talking about population and development, but the main thrust of this network is on HIV and SRHR. So the voices of young people in the global response to SRH and HIV have been limited. The truth is that young people, we are not voiceless, but it's either we are deliberately silenced or maybe we are preferably unheard. So in Zimbabwe, our National AIDS Council of Zimbabwe, in order to amplify the voices of young people in the national response, they then convened this program. So locally in Zimbabwe, it's known as Young People's Network on Sexual Reproductive Health, HIV and AIDS, which is the chapter of AFRIYAN, because AFRIYAN is in different countries in Africa. So if you are in Zimbabwe, it's called Young People's Network. But now if you are representing Zimbabwe out of the country, it now becomes AFRIYAN Zimbabwe. So it's in about 21 countries in Africa. So in the network, we have young people from different sectors, and you know that as young people, we are not a homogeneous group. So we come from different sectors, different geographical backgrounds, different locations, etc. So for now, we have like a minimum of 17 sectors, and I'll just mention some of them which are very important per se because of the challenges that they do face in regards to SRHR and HIV. And I will start with the sector that I represent, which is for young people living with HIV. And then we have youth with disability, and we also have young, key and vulnerable populations, youth in sports, youth in mining, and those that are internally displaced, those that lives in refugee camps, remote areas like those resettlement farms, etc. So these are some of the sectors that are there in the network. But the main goal is that we are there to establish a mechanism of open dialogue and exchange between youth group and youth serving organization. So when we meet as young people, we discuss different issues or challenges that we are facing in regards to SRHR and HIV. And then we don't end on discussing the challenges, but we then come up with solutions to these challenges. So among us as young people at district level, we have a person we call district facilitator, who then takes everything from that meeting and then that person will actually represent young people in different strategic forums. And at district level, we have what we call the District AIDS Action Committee, we have the Arch Forums. So this person will then represent and share all those issues to the stakeholders who will be present in those meetings. So all this will inform like the activities, the
Mhm.
plans for the upcoming years. So
Mhm.
you can actually see how we amplify the voices, and we have certain things that can be done at district level, but however we have other things that cannot be done at district level. So this person is also responsible for representing these young people at provincial level, where all district facilitators, for example, in Mashonaland and Central, we have 8 districts. So all these 8 district facilitators will then meet in one place, and they will share all the challenges that they have received from other young people from their districts. And then we also have a person called the provincial facilitator who will take the issues to different platforms and to the national level. And at national level, I am the national facilitator who then consolidate all those issues and then share different platform and represent young people in different regional, international forums. But then
Well,
the most important thing is that we need to give back feedback to the community. So that's the network. Thank you.
that is well explained, because I on that score I would like to congratulate you for such a big position, a big role that you're playing. And from just listening to you explain it, it's quite it's wholesome, it's all involving, because it's not only one specific group of the population. For instance, before I just assumed you represent youth, you're a facilitator for youth who are living with uh, uh, HIV and AIDS. But obviously, it's not, you are really getting into the national facilitator, youth people's network of sexual health and reproductive health. This is very important, because before, people just kind of like hoped that their aunties would talk to them about sexual health, but this is huge, you know. And also with HIV having taken its toll, and still is in a certain population, certain portions where people are not aware, or um, because of stigma, which is my next topic I'm going to go to, refuse or just don't look at it like it could happen to them, right? The assumption that it's those people and not us. Talk to me about stigma and how it impacts the work that you're doing in communities, because I know, I just know you. Any conversation on HIV, people always assume it's got nothing to do with me. It's those people and not me.
Yeah, definitely that's what people think. But what I would say is that it's either you are infected with HIV or you are affected with
Mm-hmm.
HIV. So when you talk about HIV, it's not something that you say, this is not about me or this doesn't concern me. It's all about us. But
Yeah.
I think stigma, for me, if I'm ranking the most difficult thing about living with HIV, I'll put it on second. The first one being accepting your status. But since you asked about stigma, let me explain. So I think due to lack of knowledge in our communities, people they really don't understand that HIV is not in the mind, but it's in the blood. And most of the people they actually think that HIV, when someone is pronounced that you are HIV positive, you are already dead. You're like a moving grave. That's why you hear people giving us some nicknames in the communities. Right here in Zimbabwe, you'd hear people saying Aripabazi. And if you do ask where is the destination of the bus, definitely is the grave. There is nothing good there. Wakatsikwa nenzou, like the elephant is on top of you and you can do anything. So mainly it's because of lack of knowledge. I think people think that HIV knowledge is readily available, but the truth is, yes, it's readily available, but very few people really understand about HIV. So even in schools, you can actually see that young people living with HIV, they are facing many challenges. And in turn, these challenges, they do affect their mental health. And if your mental health is distracted, what happens next is that you are going to default your treatment. So you can actually see that these challenges, they interlink. Yes, you stigmatized me, and I'm now having mental health challenges, and I'm not taking my medication. And what happens after is that I'm going to get sick, or maybe in the long run, I'm going to die because of stigma. So it might sound as if it's something which is very small, but it's something that is very big. Even if you have any condition in life, what you need from people is love. What you need from people is support. But this is really different from us who are living with HIV, because actually face social exclusion. Some people, if they know that you're living with HIV, they stop playing with you, interacting with you, simply because you are living with HIV. And we know other people who testified that when I told them that I'm HIV positive, I was a maid, and then they have to say you must no longer work at my house simply because you're HIV positive. But does HIV transmitted through maybe washing plates or cleaning your house, etc.? So it really shows that people, they don't understand what's happening, and stigma. Especially for Zimbabwe, we did a stigma index.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it was a research which was done. The main goal is that as a country, by 2025, less than 10% of people living with HIV should report that they are experiencing stigma. But as of 2022, according to the index, stigma index, we were still on 67%, and we are in 2023. 67%, yet our goal is 10%. So it shows that we still have a long way to go when it comes to the issue of stigma and discrimination for people living with HIV.
I know you've been a great advocate for, your advocacy in HIV has, I mean, over the years, because I've invited you before, and you might, people who are watching might not realize that you have been living with HIV. You were born with HIV, right? And so at what point did you really realize that, this is my calling? To me, this kind of stuff is not just a job, it's really a calling. And I worked in HIV myself for 12 years, and so I understand, and I do know the impact of stigma and what it looks like, and how um, it cascades down to, treatment and all that stuff. I do know that. But at what point did you realize that, to you, this is your calling?
Yeah, so when you are outside, it's very difficult for you to identify some of the issues or the challenges that a certain target group do face. So when I started knowing my status, now I'm also one of young people living with HIV. I could see some of the challenges these young people are facing, not from the community, but within our health system per se, whereby, if you are living in rural areas, and back then there were no viral load machines, so you need to be uh, tested for CD4 count. You have to travel long distance to reach to the nearest facility, and then wait for weeks and months before you get the results. All those issues, I was actually seeing them. Then, as an advocate, you need to call for change. Every opportunity that you get, you need to call for change in order to improve quality of care among the certain group. So after realizing all these challenges, that's when uh, I started advocating, because I started volunteering as a community adolescent treatment supporter, and then that opened me a door to then join the network, because I was now representing young people living with HIV. So from that platform that I entered now, it was now a room for me to start advocating for the target group, for my constituency. Because when we go into these meetings, we are not representing ourselves. If you see us, posting, traveling, etc., will be carrying issues, not just for me, but for my peers, you know.
Yes.
Yes, so that's how it started.
Okay, I talking about traveling. You have been doing a lot of traveling all over. I know. I think the last one you were in Australia.
Yes.
Yes. Tell me, what was that conference or meeting all about, and who were invited to that meeting, and the focus on that meeting?
Okay, so it was the International AIDS Society conference, but this one was mainly focusing on science, like the new innovations, be it
Mm-hmm.
on our progress on cure, new treatments, etc. So it's actually different from the AIDS conference.
Mm-hmm.
So each and every 2 years, there's the science conference starts first, and then for 2024 we're going to have the AIDS conference, which mainly focuses on the communities.
Mm-hmm.
These are the people living with HIV, drug users, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really different from this one. So everyone was invited. If you have your money, you just register, and then you attend the
Yeah.
conference and learn.
Did you find them? Do you find these conferences useful, and with the information that you gain, maybe global perspectives on HIV? Do you find them useful when you attend?
Yes, so this conference, they are very useful because they actually help us to see where we can improve, especially
Mm-hmm.
our programs locally in Zimbabwe, because there are presentations that are done, maybe abstract presentations, poster presentations that are done during these conferences, where countries will be sharing like best practices that they are doing in their different countries. So we as Zimbabwe, we then can take that and implement it in our country, and then we can maybe have some positive results. So it was really beneficial, especially for us as young people, new innovations,
Mm-hmm.
new medicines, and hearing the progress towards cure. It was very beneficial.
So, when you go out to give, education to youth, where do you go? Do you go to schools? Do you go to villages? Or how do you capture this particular population that obviously is very much at risk of getting HIV, or those who are living with HIV, the dangers of them defaulting on their treatment? Where do you get these groups? Where?
Okay, so one thing that I believe is that we don't have what we call hard to reach communities. But if you read many literature, they will actually tell you we have hard to reach communities, those that stay deep in rural areas. But they are not hard to reach. But what's hard to reach are the services, because the clinic is 10 kilometers away,
Mm-hmm.
and these people can't access the clinic. It's not the clinic that can't access people, but the opposite is true. So, in order to get this, we also use digital platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, we are living in the digital world,
Yeah,
so we
thank
have
God
other
for that.
groups,
Mhm.
especially those that are living in urban areas who do have access to internet and the accessories for them to connect. So we have different programs that we are doing online, but then we have those that are in rural areas, in remote areas. We also have like programs that we do in all those communities, but mainly with the help of our members who are there and other peer educators from different organizations that are already there. So actually they do some like focus group discussions, some like support groups, etc., in order to give these young people information. And we also have other organizations with peer educators who have like youth friendly centers
Mhm.
in all those remote areas. So there will be certain activities, for example, in a rural area. and the youth center do have Wi-Fi. So young people will come for Wi-Fi, but in turn, there are like certain standards that you have to meet before you access the Wi-Fi, including attending some of the sessions that will be happening
Ah,
at the youth center. So it's like a tactic of mobilizing young people. Yes, they are coming for football, they are coming for snooker, but before we play snooker, we have to
get some
have
education.
lesson. Yes.
That
So
I
we
think that's
go
a fantastic way of attracting young people. And I've always known. I also have been, as I said earlier on, I spent many years in HIV education, and if you just call people to say, "Come, let's talk about HIV just testing transmission," people are just like, because of the stigma, which is like around that topic. So sometimes you sort of have to embed it into other things, other activities that you're doing, and then present the education. However, when you do that, it's amazing how after they listen to you talk about um, testing, transmission, and stigma, and all that stuff, the aha moment that they get, that I can't believe it, I didn't even know that.
yes, yes, yes. That's usually happens. Yeah, I agree
So,
with you.
yeah, so it's lack of education, but also not being and not availing themselves for the information and the education. Okay,
Yeah.
now I want you to talk to me about U equals U. Explain it to people. What does that mean, and where are we right now with that? Because I think you have a very interesting story to tell us. Go ahead and talk to me about U equals U, and what does that mean when a person is
So I personally believe that U equals to U is a game changer in terms of fighting stigma and discrimination among people living with HIV. And
Explain the acronym. U equals U is undetectable equals to,
untransmittable, yes.
and what
So
does
it
that mean?
what it means that for transmission to occur, there is like a certain amount of the virus which should be in your blood. So maybe I'll give an example of those buckets that we used during COVID. They were buckets with a tape, like if you still remember. When you put water in that bucket, which is maybe below the tap, even if you open the tap, the water is there in the bucket, but you can't, the water won't come out because of the level of the water which is available in the bucket. But if you put water in the same bucket, which is above the tap, if you open, the water will come out. So that's the same thing like HIV. There is a certain amount of HIV which must be in your body for you to transmit to someone. So the studies, they have actually seen that if someone do have what we call a suppressed viral load. So for when we say suppressed viral load, we are saying yes, you have the virus, but the amount of the virus in your blood is very low, to such an extent that certain testing machines cannot detect that you have the virus inside your body. So some might say it's zero, some might say it's below 30. Different studies say different things, but that's U equals to U. So if your viral load is suppressed, you cannot sexually transmit HIV to the next person, even if you had unprotected sex.
Okay,
So
hold on
that's
that,
that equals
because
to
I I know sometimes people don't quite understand what it
U.
means. Is someone tested positive for HIV, and they
Mhm.
get on their medication, they are put on medication, and they take their treatment is directed by the doctor. At that time when they test positive, it means their viral load is so high, meaning the virus circulating in their body is very high. But when they
Yes,
get on the medication, it's suppressed. It goes down from, the amount which is circulating in the body. It goes down to a point where you have explained that it won't transmit. It won't. It's like a tap. If you turn on a tap and the water is not at a level where it will transmit, it won't. It means it's
yes,
suppressed. It's below transmission level, so to speak.
yes,
So when that is like that, when it's undetectable that way, a person who is, they're still living with HIV, they still have HIV, but the virus cannot transmit to somebody sexually. That's what it means.
Yes.
So you can have they can have unprotected sex and still not transmit. What
Yes.
about parents? What about parents of children who, parents who are HIV positive, and the parents are on treatment, and the parents are undetectable because they are taking their medication? If they have sex, they can still reproduce. They will still get pregnant, right? And
Yes. Yes.
what happens? Because people are afraid. You said, this guy is HIV positive. Yes, he's taking his medication, but I'm scared that, if I have sex with him, and how will we have children if we get married? Tell me about that.
Yes, so definitely, if you're viral, so they are like risk factors for transmission to occur if,
Mm-hmm,
like, a wife is pregnant. So
mm-hmm,
if a wife is pregnant and with a high viral load, there is like a high risk of chances maybe for transmission to occur from mother to the child.
mm-hmm,
But if the mother is virally suppressed, then the chances are very low that the mother will transmit HIV to the baby. So maybe mine is my daughter. She's too young, but it's
Explain to
another
us. I didn't
it's
want
another
to get into that. And
it's
we
an,
talk about that. Congratulations, Benson.
yeah.
You just got married, and talk to me about your story. I didn't want to say it. I wanted you to talk about your situation yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe the issue is like there is no need to be afraid anymore. And if you are HIV positive, and maybe if you're HIV negative, and then you have like a partner who is HIV positive that you want, you don't need to be afraid. We talked about recourse to you. And some people, they actually ask if I'm gonna make a family. Yes, it's possible if your viral load is suppressed, or even if your viral load is not suppressed. There are pills that you are given once you get birth to your child. Those are pre-exposure prophylaxis
Mm-hmm,
that will protect your child from getting infected. So I have a daughter who was born this month, but when a child is born, they actually test the baby
mm-hmm,
soon after being born. So
mm-hmm.
mine is HIV negative, and the next testing date is after 6 weeks. But I will tell you, I'll also tell you that she's still HIV negative because
Yes.
I'm virally suppressed. So I know that transmission can't occur.
Congratulations, Pami. And I know she Camille, and congratulations. We're
Yes,
glad to hear that. And these are lived stories of people who actually have science. We're looking at science here at play, right?
yes,
Yeah, you're HIV positive, you were virally suppressed, and you have a baby who is HIV negative. So people, when you talk about these things, it's not just talking from, this is real. Yeah. And you talked about PrEP, the prophylaxis. Explain that. What does that mean? Because people might not understand, pre-exposure prophylaxis, what it means. And I do know there's the progress that has been made in PrEP, with the injectable
yes,
cabotegravir.
yes.
Okay, can you explain what that means, and what those options look like for people?
Okay, so I think many people, they maybe some may be afraid of equals to you, but still there is another option which is pre-exposure prophylaxis. So this is like a medication which is given to someone who is HIV negative to prevent them from getting infected with HIV. So for quite a long, this PrEP was oral PrEP, which means you were given like tablets to take,
Mhm,
which you usually take when you know that you are at a high risk for 20 days. So
mhm,
if you are always at a risk, which means that you are going to take PrEP for the rest of your life, especially for those that are discordant couples, the
mhm,
sex workers, etc. But for if you know that maybe I'm going to this place, I might be at the risk, then you have to take PrEP for that. But with oral PrEP, there were some challenges because remember, someone for to take PrEP for the rest of his or her
mhm,
life might be challenging, especially on the issue of adherence.
mhm,
Other people might forget, and
mhm,
then
They
it would
fall off.
have some issues.
Mhm.
And then some of the people, they actually don't want to be seen with tablets. And if my friend comes in the house and see my tablets, because prep, these are ARVs.
Mhm.
So if my friend sees that bottle of ARVs in my house, then the friend might think that this guy is HIV positive, then leads to stigma and other issues that might arise from that. So currently we now have injectable PrEP, which is cabotegravir. So it is also being studied as pre-exposure prophylaxis. For in Zimbabwe, it's still on a pilot phase, but in other countries, I think they have actually rolled it.
I
So
think in
it
South
is,
Africa, I think in South
yeah,
Africa it's been rolled out. Yeah. Mhm.
yes.
You
So
know, maybe on that point, I would like to explain maybe a bit more that when we say pre-exposure prophylaxis, what it means is somebody who is not HIV positive, somebody who
mm,
hasn't tested positive, who doesn't have the virus in their body. So what it does, it works like a birth control pill. You know, when you
yes,
take it, it protects you from getting pregnant, like the birth control, it protects you from getting pregnant. That's how PrEP works. If you take it, even if you have sex with somebody and you might not know their status, and that person might be HIV positive, they will not transmit because the pre-exposure prophylaxis protects you, protects the body from getting the HIV in the body. Am I
yes,
right there?
definitely,
Okay.
yes,
Yeah, because people might not understand what is this PrEP. It's pre-exposed prophylaxis. Prophylaxis
yes,
meaning protecting you so it doesn't transmit.
yes,
Mhm. There is also PEP, post exposure, but that's a different story altogether. I don't know how it works in Zimbabwe, where if immediately exposed to
after you have
somebody,
been exposed,
yes,
yes,
you can take that medication, and that's before the virus replicates in the body.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
But that's for another day. I wanted to talk to you about this. Well, Luckmore, you are doing amazing work. You really are doing amazing work. And for those vanendzeve kunzwa ngavanzwa, and I know in our communities, the stigma, people almost feel like if you understand it, then there's something wrong with you. Ukuzwisisa zve-HIV asi unayo.
yeah,
Yeah, I've worked in it, like I said, because part of my job, and it's like,
yeah,
so why do you have it? Why are you so passionate about this thing? But you know what? Education is so so important because
yeah,
it will help us move from where we were to somewhere else. Because if we don't get enough education, if we don't talk about HIV, we still will be in 1980, 1990, where people were dying. And it's unnecessary because really HIV is almost like a chronic disease, right? You take your medication for your high blood pressure and you're fine, or your diabetes and you're fine. If you stop taking medication, there are consequences to that.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
So can you round up our conversation, which 30 minutes goes so fast? We're way past 30 minutes, but can you round out the conversation that we had today? What do you have to say to people out there?
So I think it's our responsibility as the communities, as families, to fight stigma and discrimination. And it's really important for us to look for information where we don't understand, especially about HIV, because there are a lot of things that are there out there. They like the innovations that you have talked about, which can actually help you as an individual to protect yourself from being infected with HIV. But above all, if you are HIV positive, I would encourage you to continue taking your medication, but not just medication, because we need more than medication. Make sure you have a good mental health state, you are eating healthy, you are having fun, just to make sure that you keep yourself relaxed. But if you're HIV negative, continue protecting yourself. Your health is your responsibility. We might take it as if it's easy to be living with HIV, but it's not easy. So I would really encourage you to remain negative and protect yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Luckmore, and good luck. And give a little kiss to the little one. And I'm so happy that mother and child are fine, and you are all a happy family. We wish you the best, right?
Thank
And for
you.
everybody who's been following us, thank you so much for another segment of ordinary people doing extraordinary work. And so we'll see you next week on another segment. This is Sangwa Spiwe Chiza Mapfumo. What today? Why am I not talking properly? From Sangwa Spiwe Chiza Mapfumo. I'll see you next Saturday on another segment of Kano Iwanyayi broadcast. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.